وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. Once the apostle of God was in the mosque and Amirul Mu'mineen was also with him. Abazar, this sacred companion and Sahabi of Rasulullah, he enters the mosque and sees it a good opportunity, a good occasion, takes benefit of that occasion and goes to Rasulullah and asked him to advise Abazar, to give him an advice that would be beneficial for him both in this world and the next. A detailed conversation takes place between Rasulullah and Abazar. If we were to discuss it over here, it would take at least 2 to 3 months if we were to recite just a few sayings of that wasiyya. There, at some stage, Rasulullah, he gives a brief description of the hell and the heaven, the paradise, and says, Ya Abazar, لو كان لرجل عمل 70 نبيا لاستقل عمله من شدة ما يرى يومئذ ولو أن دلوا سب من غسلين في غلت منه جماجم من مغربها ولو زفرت جهنم زفرة لم يبق ملك مقرب ولا نبي مرسل إلا خر جاثيا على ركبتيه يقول ربي نفسي نفسي حتى ينسى إبراهيم إسحاق يقول يا ربي أنا خليلك إبراهيم فلا تنسني. Says Abazar, if one's actions, if one's deeds were equal to the actions and deeds of 70 prophets, he will recognize how less they were when he sees the wrath and the hardships of the day of judgment. Then says Abazar, if a bucket of ghislin, now what ghislin is will be explained later on. If a bucket of ghislin was thrown in the east, the skulls of those dwelling in the west would boil as a result of that ghislin. Abazar, if the hell sighed and if the hell groaned once, there will not remain an angel or the prophet, but they would fall on to their knees, saying, Oh my God, myself, myself, to such an extent that Ibrahim will forget his son Ishaq until he would say, I am your friend, O God, your friend Ibrahim, have mercy on me. And then he gives a brief glimpse of the paradise and says, Ya Abazar, لو أن امرأة من نساء أهل الجنة طلعت من سماء الدنيا في ليلة ظلماء لأضاءت لها الأرض أفضل مما يضيئها القمر ليلة البدر جميع أهل الأرض ولو أن ثوبا من ثياب أهل الجنة نشر اليوم لسائق من ينظر إليه وما حملته أبصارهم. Says Abazar, if a woman from the paradise, if she appeared on the sky of the earth today, on a dark night, the earth will be lightened much more than being lightened by a full moon. And the fragrance of her appearance would be filled and felt throughout the world by everyone. And if a dress of the dwellers of paradise was shown today in this world, they will fall unconscious and their eyes would not be able to bear it. There are many ways. Now whatever will be said here, recited here and explained will first be a lesson to myself and to you brothers and sisters, a reminding. Now there are many ways to reach a stage where man, he fears the Almighty God. One of the ways is by reading, studying, consulting ulama or the sayings of ma'sumeen. One of the ways is by pondering into the greatness of the Almighty and His creation, the magnificence, the grandeur, the perfection, and His never-ending wisdom. And confronting this lies man's inability, lies man's wretchedness, and this would result in him being more obedient to the Almighty God and being away from the obedience of Shaitan. Now, not only will he know his greatness nor his own wretchedness, but would reach a stage where he fears and is frightened to disobey the Almighty God. Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha says that he would guide you to the right path and would make you fear the Almighty. Says, وَلَوْ فَكَّرُوا فِي عَظِيمِ الْقُدْرَةِ وَجَسِيمِ النِّعْمَةِ لَرَجَعُوا إِلَى الطَّرِيقِ وَخَافُوا عَذَابَ الْحَرِيقِ. Says he, had they pondered over the greatness of His power and the vastness of His bounty, they would have returned to the right path and feared the punishment of the fire. But hearts, they are sick, and eyes are impure. Do they not see the small things He has created, how He strengthened their system, and opened for them hearing and sight, and made for them bones and skin? Look at the ant, with its small body and its delicate form. It can hardly be seen in the corner of the eye or the perception of the imagination. How it moves onto the earth, how it leaps at its livelihood. It carries the grain to its hole and deposits it in its place of stay. It collects during summer for its winter, and during strength for the period of its weakness. The livelihood of this ant is guaranteed and is fed according to fitness. Allah, the kind, He does not forget it, and Allah, the giver, does not deprive it, even though it may be in dry stone or fixed rock. Now, today with the sophisticated technology, the telescopes, the spaceship, etc., it is easier for us to understand the greatness. For example, when you see the space, now all this is easier for us to understand today. Now, before starting our prayers, if we think about these issues, it will help us offering a better service with a more frightful and a fearful man. There is no doubt that Akhirah, hell, or the heavens, they are the greatest of the creations of the Almighty God. Now, perceiving them for us is impossible. By reading Quran, Hadith, we can just get a gloomy picture of it. But what the reality is, it is far from our understanding. The same is the case with understanding the wrath, the pain, the azab, the disasters of the day of judgment, or the hell. Giving importance to the ayat and the sayings of A'imma, they prepare us to understand that better. For example, when Quran speaks about the day of judgment, says, يَوْمَ تَرَوْهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ أَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ بِشَدِيدٍ. On the day when you shall see every suckling mother shall forsake her suckling baby, and every female pregnant shall drop her load, and you shall see men intoxicated, and they are not intoxicated, but the chastisement of Allah will be severe. It is such a frightening occasion that one would forget oneself, himself. A mother to whom his dearest one, his loving one, is the baby. Due to the fright of that day, she will forget her baby. A baby, a child, for whom both materially and the affection of the mother is the most dearest to him. Due to that fright, she will forget her child. If we try and if we understand the meaning of this earth, we see how frightening that day is. One would review himself. When the hellfire is reminded to us, our utmost understanding about the hell is as if burning our hands in an ordinary fire, or burning ourselves with an electric shock. That is the maximum we can think about. Or when the blessings of the paradise, when they are reminded to us, our maximum understanding is comparing it with the best worldly blessings we have today. We do not think beyond that because our thinking, our understanding, it is limited. That is the maximum limit of man's thinking. What he has seen, what he has tasted, what he has touched, or maximum what he has examined. The Holy Prophet in one of the narrations, he explains the disasters of the Day of Judgment. Says, Abazar, if just a fraction of it took place on this earth, it will devastate everything in it and on it. The disaster would take place. Ya Abazar, لو كان لرجل عمل 70 نبيا لاستقل عمله من شدة ما يرى يومئذ. Abazar, if one's actions were equal to the actions of 70 prophets, his a'mal, his actions will be nothing when he sees the wrath, the disasters of the Day of Judgment. Now, our actions, they are not even equal to the actions of an ordinary mu'min. How can they be equal to the actions of 70 prophets? Now, even if we assume our a'mal to be equal to those of 70 prophets, but on that frightful, on that scary and devastating day, it will not be more than an atom for us. All we possess is hope in the Almighty. Or as we recited in Dua Kumail just now, the maximum asset what man possesses is raja, is hope in the Almighty God. We cannot rely upon our deeds at all. The only thing on which we can have hope is the mercy of the Almighty God. By repenting, by weeping, by crying, by shedding tears, and by calling upon Him, we can have and we can keep the doors of His mercy, of His rahmah open upon us. Says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ دَلْوًا صُبَّ مِنْ غِسْلِينَ فِي مَطْلَعِ الشَّمْسِ لَغَلَتْ مِنْهُ جَمَاجِمُ مِنْ مَغْرِبِهَا. Abazar, if a bucket of ghislin to those living in the east of this world, the skulls of those dwelling in the west would boil as a result of that ghislin. Ghislin, one of the foods of those to whom hell has been assigned is ghislin. As Quran says, فَلَيْسَ لَهُ الْيَوْمَ هَاهُنَا حَمِيمٌ وَلَا طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ غِسْلِينَ. Therefore, he has not here a true friend, nor any food except ghislin. Ghislin is the refuse. Now, this is the food for the wrongdoers. Ghislin is the drink of Jahannam, hell. Now, ghislin is the dirt of the dishes which remains after washing them, or the dirt of the clothes which is squeezed out while washing them. It is so dirty, so stinky, rotten, and boiling that if a bucket of it is thrown onto the east, those living in the west, their skulls would boil. Then says that this ghislin from the evil acts of the creation of God. In the continuation again says, Abazat, walau zafarat jahannam zafratan lam yabqa malakun muqarrabun wala nabiyyun mursal illa kharra jathiyan ala rukbatayh يقول ربي نفسي نفسي حتى ينسى إبراهيم إسحاق يقول يا ربي أنا خليلك إبراهيم فلا تنسني. If the hell, if it sighed, if it groaned once, there will not remain an angel or the prophets, but they would fall on to their knees, saying, my God, myself, myself, to such an extent that Ibrahim would forget his son Ishaq and would say, God, have mercy on me first. I am your friend Ibrahim. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ شَقُوا فَفِي النَّارِ لَهُمْ فِيهَا شَهِيقٌ وَزَفِيرٌ. So as for those who are unhappy, they shall be in the fire, for them shall be a sighing and groaning in it, abiding therein so long as the heavens and the earth endure. Except as your Lord pleases. Surely your Lord is the mighty doer of which he intends. As we inhale and as we exhale, Jahannam too inhales and exhales, which is called Zafirun wa Shahiq, or roaring or the groaning of Jahannam. Says if the hell, if it roars, if it groans, everyone will be frightened and no one would be at ease. Even the angels who are the nearest to God, even they would come to their knees by the roaring and groaning of Jahannam. Now this was just a glimpse, a gloomy picture of the devastating and frightening chastisement of the Day of Judgment. In a narration, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam narrates a hadith where he elaborates a bit more about Jahannam and says, now I'll not recite the Arabic text of it, says, one day while the Holy Prophet was sitting, Jibreel, he comes to him. And Jibreel, he was upset and depressed. The Prophet asked Jibreel, why are you so upset? Why are you so depressed? He said, why should I not be upset? He says, today the bellows of Jahannam were set. Rasulullah says that, what are the bellows of Jahannam? What do you mean by them being set? At this, Jibreel says that God, he ordered the fire to burn for 1,000 years until it became red. And then again, he ordered the fire to burn for another 1,000 years until it became white. And again, he ordered the fire to burn for another 1,000 years until it turned black. And it is this black fire at this, and it is that black fire which is burning in Jahannam. And if a burning blaze of Jahannam, which is about 70 feet long, if this was put onto the earth, its heat would melt the earth totally. And if a drop of zaqum or dhari' was put into the water of this earth, everyone would die due to its bad smell. At seeing Jibreel cry, the apostle of God, he starts crying. And upon this, the Almighty, he sends an angel to them and says, Allah, He sends His salams to you and has protected you from committing sins and has protected you from that burning fire of Jahannam. We too ask the Almighty God to help us, to protect us, and to keep us away from that Jahannam. Now this was a gloomy picture of the hell. But paradise, which is the home of mu'mineen, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْهَا مِنْ ثَمَرَةٍ رِزْقًا قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَأْتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. And convey good news to those who believe and to do good deeds, and that they shall have gardens in which rivers flow. Whenever they shall of the fruit thereof, they shall say, this is what was given to us before. And they shall be given the like of it, and they shall have pure mates in them, and they shall live in the heavens forever. وعد الله المؤمنين والمؤمنات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ورضوان من الله أكبر ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Allah, He has promised to the believing men and to the believing women gardens beneath which rivers flow, where to abide in them, and goodly dwelling in gardens of perpetual abode. And the best of all is Allah's goodly pleasure, that is the grand achievement. Now the reality is that man, by his good deeds, he makes the paradise and its blessings available for himself. The more he strives, the lesser he makes use of the worldly pleasures. The more he fights his carnal desires, the better he achieves. In another narration, again from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, says that when Rasulullah, he ascends to the skies, when he visits the paradise, says, لَمَّا أَسْرَى بِي إِلَى السَّمَاءِ دخلت الجنة فرأيت فيها ملائكة يبنون لبنة من ذهب ولبنة من فضة وربما أمسكوا فقلت لهم ما لكم ربما بنيتم وربما أمسكتم فقالوا قول المؤمن في الدنيا سبحان الله لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر فإذا قال بنينا وإذا أمسك أمسكنا. Now in this world, when we make houses or buildings, the building material is the blocks, the cement, the iron, the wood, doors, windows, so on and so forth. Says when Rasulullah ascends to the skies, he enters the paradise, and there he sees a few angels building a palace. They laid blocks of gold, laid upon blocks of silver. They worked for some time and then stopped working. Again, they laid a few more blocks, they sat back, stopped working. At this, Rasulullah, he inquires the angels, why don't you work properly? Why do you stop? And why do you work again? Why don't you work constantly? Why didn't you finish this palace sooner? At this, the angels, they reply and say that whenever the building material of this palace is the recital or the saying of a mu'min, which is Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Whenever a mu'min says this recital, we build, and once he stops, we also stop. So whatever is done here is credited over there. Whatever we send forth is built over there. Ya Aba Dhar, لو أن امرأة من نساء أهل الجنة طلعت من سماء الدنيا في ليلة ظلماء لأضاءت لها الأرض أفضل مما يضيئها القمر ليلة البدر ولوجد ريح نشرها جميع أهل الأرض. Abazar, if a woman from the paradise, if she appeared at night, the earth will be lightened much more than being lightened by a full moon. And the fragrance of her appearance would be filled and felt throughout the world by everyone. And if a dress of the dwellers of paradise was shown today in this world, they will fall unconscious and their eyes would not be able to bear it. It is understood from the sayings of the Holy Prophet that the senses in Qiyamah and in the paradise, they are much, much more stronger than what we have today. The eyes we have, they are so weak that if the dress of the paradise was shown to us today, we could not bear to see it and we will fall unconscious. But for those living in the paradise, for them it is something ordinary. The abilities in the paradise are much, much more than the worldly abilities we have. Creatures like man who possess understanding in Qiyamah, their abilities will be millions and millions of times more than what they have today. There, everything has life. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. And this life of the world is nothing but sport and play. And as for the next abode, that is most surely the life. Did they not know? It is natural that when everything has life there, even herbs, shrubs, stones, plants, etc., then man too will live there, and every part of the body of man in Qiyamah will speak. Now, in the hell, when the eyes, skin, and the ears of the criminals saying, "Antaqanal," witness against him, then the criminals, they would say that, "Why are you witnessing against me? Were you not a part of my body? Why do you witness today? Why do you speak against me?" And then the various parts of his body would say, "Antaqana Allah alladhi antaqa kulla shay." And they shall say to their skins, "Why have you borne witness against me?" They shall say, "Allah who makes everything speak has made us speak, and He has created you at first, and to Him you shall be brought back." The description of hell and the paradise in this part of the hadith, it cannot be compared with the worldly measures. Now, how can a stinky, dirty liquid like ghislin, if poured on to the east, boil the skulls of those onto living in the west? Now, all this, we just cannot say that it is impossible. For us to understand this today, it is a bit easier. God, He has created the atomic energy, or that which is released from uranium. Now, if just a very small particle of this is released, what great disasters it could create. Cities and cities could be destroyed. Now, over there, what energies, what has God hidden over there? What sort of energies will devastate, will destroy? This has to be multiplied by millions and millions, but infinity. Now, this was mentioned for us to come to ourselves, to understand that we have not been created for this limited dunya, for this limited world. We must know that whatever we have in the hereafter, the joy of this world is a very gloomy picture of all the joys one would get in the hereafter. The calamities, the difficulties which we face here today are nothing compared to the difficulties, the calamities, the chastisement, the disasters one would face in the hereafter. Now, when we think about these issues, this will result in us in an increase in good deeds. This would prevent us to come to ourselves, to know ourselves, to be away from jealousy, pride, and all the negative characters. May Allah Jalla wa Ala, by the barakah of this sacred month of Ramadan, by the presence of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who is Sahibu Hadha al-Yawm, by the presence of Ahlul Bayt, help us in understanding his great religion. Help us understanding these great sayings. Keep us firm on his right path. May he Jalla wa Ala expedite in the reappearance of our master, our Hujjah, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And may he count us among his true servants and supporters, and may he grant martyrdom to us in his sacred service. And may he bless Shafa to all those who have requested. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.